Coming off our biggest profit win on UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier, profiting almost 10 units, and our units are $25 a pop, going 11 for 2 on picks, and let's break that down. Getting 20th place on Tapology. So let's break down my picks. So I had Makhachev winning, high confidence in the submission as well. It was really dicey. It was honestly way closer than I thought it would be. I think Makhachev, the staph infection could have been something, but I know Dustin had injuries too. I think he had a rib injury before. Dustin, he had a good fourth round. It looked like he was maybe starting to come back, but Makhachev is just too good. He's pound for pound the best. Um, the submission, honestly, after the third round, it looked like it wasn't going to happen, but he gritted through and got it. Strickland decision. I feel like even though this was a 5 round fight, Strickland is a pretty decision-berg fighter, and he's pretty boring. Like, he might talk a lot of shit, and it's funny, but I'd say Strickland is a decision-burger fighter. Um, he doesn't really have too much on his shots. He almost kind of finished him in the fifth round, but uh, just the way I saw that the fight was gonna go was he's just gonna jab him up and just output is gonna be more than Paulo Costa's, and that's what ended up happening. Holland by submission in the first round. I'd say that the reason why I said Holland by submission in the first round is because Ole Zuk is uh, not that good on the ground, and he's been submitted a bunch in the past. And I think Holland is kind of one of those fighters that is either gonna go for the finish or kind of just he's kind of there for the paycheck. I feel like, and that's why he has a lot of fights and he'll fight short notice. So I kind of expected him to go all out, kind of like Terrence McKinney. Um, Although I didn't think he would get dropped, I thought he would be able to be better than him on the feet too, like be able to knock him out or submit him. But we ended up getting the pick right. Going to Nico Price versus Alex Morano. I was pretty upset just because I mean, obviously I was only one off from getting a perfect card, and everybody might say if they were one off, they'd be like, "Oh, I wanted to switch," but Nico Price isn't that good, so I couldn't really go for him, and I don't think I would go for him, but I wanted to just because Alex Morono, his last fight against Court McGee, really disappointed me, and I was pretty high confidence in him on the Court McGee, and then he just didn't have too much to offer, and just like he wasn't really pushing the pace, his cardio wasn't looking too great, and his cardio showed here. He kind of just ended up gassing out after the first, he was even huffing and puffing. Nico Price is just dog tough. He wasn't doing anything special, but he was just overwhelming him. So I thought that this fight would go decision just because both of them don't have too much power. But even though the first time they fought, they dropped each other a bunch, and Nico ended up knocking him out. But got the pick wrong, but wasn't too high confidence in this fight. Next up, Randy Brown versus Elizu Zaleski. Um, Reason why I said Brown by decision is just because I feel like Zaleski is definitely just tough enough to survive. I thought that Brown would be able to stay on the outside and piece him up, and I mean he kind of did that. I'd say his range and his height and his size is just too much, and Zaleski is good, but he's probably just too old. Yeah, I mean I think he's kind of a decision fighter, so it was pretty easy to say Brown by decision. Next up, Roman Kopylov versus Cesar Almeida. Honestly, in my breakdown, I thought that Kopylov would get a takedown for sure, just because he can mix in the takedowns, and Almeida's just only a striker, so and his takedown defense isn't really tested, but he ended up just taking him down, and that's how he ended up winning the fight. I thought Kopylov would be able to beat him on the feet, but he was getting his licks in, but um, he was definitely struggling. He started to gas out a little bit, but the takedowns were just too easy for him, and he pretty much got him at will. So they got that right. It was actually my funky pick of the week was Kopylov, plus money, or actually it might have been minus 102. But I feel like even though the fight was semi-close. I'd say that semi-close as in it wasn't like pure domination by Kopylov. I'd say it was pretty obvious because he's just a better MMA fighter. Um, Almeida in his previous fights, he would get taken down, would stand back up if he's against the fence, but his wrestling wasn't really tested, and he's a striker, not too young, so got the pick right with Kopylov. Next up, Jalton Almeida by submission in the third round. It actually ended up being in the first round submission. I honestly thought I was pretty high on this pick, but the problem was the reason why I said round three was because I thought Romanov was actually just be tough enough. I thought he would be able to have a good first round, and then gas towards the later rounds in the second or third. So I was hedging a submission in the third round, but he ended up getting quick work, getting a takedown, and choking him out. Next up, Grant Dawson versus Joe Selecki. I feel like this was pretty cut dry. Of you knew that Grant Dawson was going to take him down. It was whether Joe Selecki would be able to submit him, and I feel like Grant Dawson is too high level of a wrestler and gets good positions, and is just going to be able to just control him. And he pretty much did no damage, but it was pure domination. It was a really boring fight, but Dawson by decision was pretty easy. This was one that was not too much confidence, but a lot of people were picking Phil Rowe. I felt like both of them aren't like really finishers, so I had Matthews by decision. I'd say Matthews was just he looked like the better overall fighter, and he just had more to give. Phil Rowe kind of it seemed like maybe he wasn't sticking to his game plan, or I don't know. He was kind of just either getting caught in moments or just not really going for it like how he needed to win the fight. And Matthews is just more of a proven guy. That's why I picked him, and I had like low medium confidence in him just because he's a proven guy. He's definitely had losses, but he's proven UFC level, and I think Phil Rowe is UFC level, but he just hasn't. You haven't seen his career long term in the UFC. Next up, Basel Hafez versus Mickey Gall. This was a low confidence pick in the decision, but high confidence in Hafez winning. It was probably one of my highest confidence other than Makachev. I think Hafez, I thought that he would be able to beat him on the feet and just take him down at will, and he got his takedowns, and he was beating him on the feet in the first for sure, and piecing him up. But second and third, Mickey Gall was definitely finding some success. I'd say Mickey Gall, he probably looked better than I thought he would, but Hafez is just too strong, too dog, and he just pushes the pace, and he honestly just eats everything. He pretty much ate everything that Mickey Gall threw. Didn't really look dazed, and they look like bombs, so it could be Mickey Gall not having too much power, but Hafez is looking good, but getting hit up by Mickey Gall isn't the best look, but he got the win. Next up, Aileen Perez versus Jocelyn Edwards. I feel like this was definitely a fun fight. I was saying that Jocelyn Edwards would likely be able to take a round, and that's what ended up happening. Perez by decision. I'd say most women's fights are pretty decision-berg themselves, so it was pretty easy to pick the decision. And Perez just seemed like the better overall fighter that can mix in takedowns and just beat her on the feet, and that's what she ended up doing. So there was some close calls, but she ended up getting the win. The last fight, Andre Lima versus Mitch Raposo. You know, a lot of people were picking Mitch Raposo, but I honestly didn't get it. Like, exactly what he did was what I thought he'd do. Just be able to be athletic and young and look the part, but not necessarily be the part. He's not super technical. Even people were saying that he looked really technical in his tape, but I honestly didn't really see it. The one thing that I think he really failed on was not going for enough takedowns. He went for 2 takedowns, got 1. Andre Lima, he's just better than him on the feet. I think that he's able to keep his distance. He really used his leg kicks and body kicks to just win this fight. It was a pretty boring fight. I'd say it was a clear 30-27 for me, but the rounds in itself weren't like crazy dominant. I know the commentary was kind of like, oh, Andre Lima is cooking him, but Andre Lima, 30-27. I had it going Lima by decision, um, and it ended up happening. And that's the recap. First fight of the card: Puja Tomar versus Rayanne Amanda. My pick is gonna be Tomar by decision. I feel like Tomar, she just has enough output and enough kicks to do the upset. I mean, I'd say Amanda has good grappling. She has okay takedowns, but I feel like Tamar has enough grit. She's not really proven. Not This is a pretty low confidence pick, but I feel like in women's MMA, I think the odds that they are right now, I feel like the pick should be, or at least if you're gonna bet, it should be on Tamar. And that's what I'm gonna do. I think Tamar will just be able to use her kicks. I feel like she has really good combos and ends with a kick every single time, and it's just going to be enough for her to at least take a round. Pretty confident in her taking a round, but I think she's going to end up winning by decision. Next up, Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. My pick is going to be Cody by decision. I feel like this is a decision berg fight. I think Cody is being underrated. I don't know why the odds are so wide. I feel like Taylor is pretty technical and he's good, but he's just such a like non-finisher, decision berg out the ass. And I'd say Cody is proven to have at least fought good guys. Um, Taylor, I don't know. He fought Farid Basharat. That was he didn't do like the ultra worst, but like I don't know. I feel like Cody would lose to Basharat too, but I feel like he has enough output, um, and he can even work in takedowns. I mean, he's not like a crazy I'm gonna take you down, but I feel like he'll work them out throughout the fight, and I feel like he'll just be able to output more than him and be able to get the win by decision. Next up, Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. My pick is going to be Moura by submission in the first round. I feel like her takedowns and her size is good enough to get a takedown on Gomes. Gomes struggles with takedowns. She has good power and she's a lot more technical than Moura. I think if this fight is standing, Gomes will end up finding the KO or just winning by decision. But I honestly don't really see that just because she struggles with wrestling. And Moura is pretty big and she has really good grappling. I think that her stand up is pretty stiff and she doesn't really have combos that are that good. And it's pretty slow. So I honestly don't. The only way that she can win by knockout is if she just ground and pound finishes her because her on the feet she's just not too promising. But I'd say that her ground and pound and her positioning is really good. She'll always look for the finish on the ground, or just look for damaging blows. And I think that Mora is gonna win. It's pretty decently confident on it. Um, I think that she will submit her. And honestly, she has been getting a lot of submissions in the first round, and Gomes struggles with wrestling, so I think he might be a quick one while they're dry, and she'll lock up a submission. Next up, Daniel Marcos versus John Castañeda. My pick is going to be Marcos by decision. I feel like both of them aren't like too powerful. Marcos is pretty clean. Sometimes he won't have the most output, but I think that he's just more technical than John. I think John, he honestly is really dog tough. He'll take it and keep coming forward. But I think that just he's just technically not uh, enough to beat Marcos, and I think Marcos is more of a stay on the outside and pick his shots, while John has to bite down on his toughness and push through. And I feel like Marcos does a good job of avoiding damage and getting his shots in that he wants and sticking to his game plan. So it's going to be Marcos by decision. Next up, Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. My pick is going to be Lee by decision. I think this is a kind of a cut and dry. I'm decently confident in Lee. I'd say that this fight is gonna go to the decision. Oh, Jesus Christ, that scared the shit out of me. I think this gonna go to the decision, but they've also already fought before, and Lee ended up getting the win. I think that they're pretty similar in uh, like skill level. Both of them have fought pretty much the same people. I think Lee is just way cleaner on the feet. She has takedowns of her own. Just a better overall fighter. I feel like Rosa has to get it to the ground and get good control time to win. And I think that if she gets the takedowns, which she probably will, but I don't think she'll be able to hold her down for too long. And Lee will probably be able to get her own takedowns or reversals. I think on the feet it's night and day, and on the ground it's not ridiculously far apart. So my pick is going to be Lee by decision. Next up, Brad Katona versus Jesse Butler. My pick is gonna be Katona by decision. I feel like Katona is like I've already said it a bunch, but he's honestly one of the most decision burger fighters there is. He doesn't have too much power. He doesn't look like he has much on his shots. He's just like a low weight Sean Strickland, but not as much output. He just I don't know. It doesn't look like he has much on his shots. Jesse Butler is not UFC level. He got knocked out by Jim Miller, which is not the worst because Jim Miller is okay, but or nowadays he's okay, but I don't know. Katona, he should win. This is definitely one of my more confident picks. It's like along the same length of Lee and Moura. I'd say Katona. If he loses this is just such bad looks. I think that he should be able to take him down if he wants to, and beat him on the feet. I don't think Butler is that good on the feet. His grappling is pretty crafty. I'd say so. He has to watch out and make sure he doesn't tie nothing up. But chances of Butler winning, I don't think it's too high. And the only reason I'm not like really confident in Katona is just because he's not really that proven himself. He's won the Ultimate Fighter twice, but that doesn't mean too much nowadays, I feel like. But Katona at like minus 600 is pretty damn dog shit. Yeah, Katona by decision. He's going to be the pick. Next up, Charles Radtke versus Carlos Prates. My pick is going to be Radtke by KO in the second round. I feel like, honestly, Radtke impressed me on the Urbino win and knocking him out in the first round. He was really setting up his shots. He's pretty tough. I'd say Prates is the more technical striker, and he has more power, I'd say, and more versatility in the shots, and that's why he's the favorite. But I feel like in his last fight, I forgot who it is against. I can't think of it on top of my head, but I remember watching it, and he he honestly was getting pressured and overwhelmed a bit. He's finding his shots, but it was like 2 to 1 strike difference. And I think that Radtke can get a takedown if he needs to, but he can also maybe even get the KO, which was gonna be my prediction. But I think it could be like a ground and pound KO or just on the feet KO. But I feel like Prates, he definitely has a cardio issue, and I feel like that's why it's gonna be a second round finish, is because after the first round he's got to be gassed a little bit, be open for shots, and that's probably one of the main reasons I'm picking Radtke, just because I think Radtke can withstand his strikes, and I feel like he's tough enough to survive late. And Prates, he gets hit too much. Like his striking is really good, but his defense is kind of his offense type of thing. And I think that Prates getting hit too much and gassing is gonna end up him getting knocked out in the second round. Last fight on the prelims: Thiago Moisés versus Ľudovít Klein. My pick is going to be Klein by decision. I feel like Moisés is too tough to get finished, and both of them are kind of. I feel like Moisés is a finisher. I think the last 6 of his wins, I think, are by finish. Klein, he's been looking really good. I feel like his last fight against Cunningham, I believe, is kind of a nothing fight. He definitely should have knocked him out in the first round, and it's pretty predictable because Cunningham ain't UFC level. But Moisés is really tough. He's lost to good people. But I feel like Klein is just better on the feet, and I feel like this could be a striking matchup, so that's why my pick is going to be Klein. Moisés, he doesn't have too much output, and even when he is better than the other person, like in his last fight against Mitch Ramirez, he just wasn't really. He was controlling him, but he wasn't dominating him how he should. Um, but Klein by decision, I feel like it's the most likely thing. Or this fight by decision is probably the most likely thing rather than a pick. But I think Klein will be able to be more technical, pick his shots, and just edge his way by decision. First fight of the main card: Punahele Soriano versus Miguel Baeza. My pick is gonna be Baeza by KO in the second round. I feel like this could be a first round type of thing, um, but I feel like Serrano, he honestly, he's not that good at all, and I don't. Both of them are coming off losses. I think they might be coming off like I know Baeza is coming off 3 losses. Serrano, I think he might be coming off 2, maybe 3. Both of them aren't crazy good. It's a low confidence pick. It's gonna be honestly, I think it is gonna be a by finish because both of them throw pretty heavy. Serrano, he throws way too heavy and not enough output, so I feel like it's hard to pick him. Obviously, he can get like a lucky shot or just like a powerful shot, but like it just if he's throwing just one bomb at a time, like he's not really setting anything up. And Baeza sets stuff up. He puts good pressure. He's more technical, and I feel like I'd say he's a better fighter than Serrano, but they're both like close to the same level. So it's a low confidence pick, but Baeza by KO in the second round. Next up, Julian Marquez versus Zach Reese. My pick is gonna be Marquez, whatever, um, by KO in the first round. I think that Reese can win. He's not that proven. He got slam KO'd by Cody Brundage, which is kind of hard to view that fight. I think Reese is pretty crafty. His submissions are really sneaky, but he looks like he uses his size and athleticism, and that's how he ended up getting his wins. He hasn't seen outside the first round. That's why I think he either wins in the first or he loses in the first. But I feel like he is better on the ground. But Julian will just be able to have the cleaner shots, connect more, and I don't really think Reese is really gonna go for the takedowns. And if he does, it might be just like a last ditch effort. Julian, he doesn't look crazy good. He's not that good, but I feel like this is one of those to like just to entertain the fans, and it's gonna be a first round knockout for Julian. Bruno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltz Fuzz. My pick is gonna be Ferreira by KO in the first round. He also hasn't seen outside the first round more than twice, I believe. He is really powerful. The difference between he has really powerful strikes and he throws heavy, but like the difference between him and Serrano is that he has the intensity to back it up, and he'll keep coming at you and like be able to have something in your face. He's really fidgety, so he'll keep something in your face and try to distract you with a heavy bomb. He has really good power. I'd say his one loss is against Rizaboyev, which I feel like he's a fraud. I had Rizaboyev. I don't remember exactly. I think I ended up having um, Rizaboyev maybe winning against Ferreira, but against Buckley, I felt like it definitely was like a too much to handle for him. But I'm getting sidetracked. Ferreira, I feel like he is more proven, has beaten better guys. He beat RoboCop, which is a good win. Dustin, he has had like somewhat of a resurgence. He beat Soriano his last fight. He looked really good in that fight, but it is Soriano. I feel like if you look at Dustin's record, it's not too good. His losses aren't that good either. I feel like Brunno will be able to just run through him just because he runs through most of his people that he fights. And I mean, honestly, it's either him getting knocked out or submitted or Brunno knocking him out. I think this is definitely going to finish. Brunno just seems better on the feet and he seems too strong, honestly, for Dustin to take him down. So my pick is going to be Ferreira by first round knockout. Next up, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Tercios. My pick is going to be Rosas by submission in the first round. I believe that he's just going to be able to get the takedowns. Ricky is really crafty where he can scramble really well, and he doesn't really sit in a position. He doesn't really sit in a position. So I think that the chance of Ricky winning is just going to be like a maybe edging, like a close fight in a decision. I don't really see him finishing him at all because he's kind of a decision guy himself. Rosas comes out really hard. I'd say his pace is, I don't know. I mean, 135 is pretty high pace, but I feel like he is like one of those where he's just going to bust for the takedown. And if he is going to get the takedown, it's just whether if he exerts a lot of energy or not. I feel like if Ricky can stuff a lot of takedowns, Rosas is going to definitely be in trouble. And his gas tank um, is not the best when he's shooting so many takedowns and not able to get them, obviously. But I feel like he will be able to get takedowns. Will be able to just like tie up, get the submission while they're dry, and yeah, my pick is gonna be Rosas by submission in the first round. Co-main event: Dominic Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. You know, I really wanted to pick Dominic Reyes. He's fought really good guys. He honestly, I mean, everyone knows that he beat John Jones, but honestly, he's been different ever since then. He's been getting knocked out. I think, 3 knockout losses by Blachowicz, Spann, and Yuri. I feel like I don't know. It's really hard to pick Reyes. I mean, I'm rooting for Reyes. He's definitely the higher caliber fighter just because he beat John Jones and he's fought in all these ex champions plus Spann, but that's him coming off of 2 knockout losses. Now he's coming off of 3 knockout losses, so it's like, are you gonna pick him? Dustin Jacoby, he's a kickboxer. He's clean on the feet. He avoids damage pretty well. He picks his shots. I think he's going to be the more technical fighter. And I don't think Dominic Reyes is going to go for the takedown. So it's just, if he goes for the takedown, he can easily win this fight. I feel like he's the higher level fighter. But I feel like he's going to keep it on the feet, get clipped up. His chin is questionable, so I feel like Jacoby, he's got to be the pick. But I'm definitely rooting for Reyes. I want Reyes to win, but Jacoby by second round knockout is going to be my pick. The main event: Jared Cannonier versus Nasruddin Imavov. Cannonier by decision is going to be my pick. Honestly, this is a really close one. Initially, I was on Imavov. And I was thinking that he would be able to beat Cannonier just because Cannonier, I don't know, like, my idea of Cannonier is that he's beaten good contenders. He's lost to the champs, Adesanya and Whitaker. But, I mean, looking back on it and watching the tape, Cannonier has good output. He's tough. He pushes the pace. Even in the fights he's losing, he's getting in shots. He's working. And I feel like he has beaten the better guys. Like looking at him, Nasruddin. Let me just call him Nasruddin. He was beating Chris Curtis, was looking good. He can work in takedowns. But I feel like his loss against Sean Strickland it wasn't really that close. On the other hand, Cannonier's was, and that's a tricky fight, so you can give benefit of doubt for Nasruddin, but I feel like Cannonier, he's the more experienced. He might be able to work in some takedowns of his own, but I think on the feet, he's just more explosive, more powerful. He's probably the all-arounder, not the better fighter, because Nasruddin is pretty crafty on the ground. He can latch up submissions, and his takedowns are pretty good. I'd say better than Cannonier's, but the confidence isn't too high. But honestly, I feel like Cannonier is too tough, too dog, too proven to lose to Nasruddin. I was about to say Imavov. Well, I guess that's right. But Cannonier, I feel like he is someone that you can trust, and him at dog money is just too good, baby, just too good. So give me Cannonier by decision. And that's my quick picks breakdown on Cannonier versus Imavov. If you've seen this far, I appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe.